just a brief introduction. I actually handled supply chain finance and co-lending at Vivriti Capital. That is credit for the same. So broadly, like we have two, institutional and retail as a segment. So we just wanted to understand broadly, like how you have started this company, what sort of like a value proposition is there for the customer, and what sort of trends you're observing in the industry. Yeah.
Sure. So we started FASHiNZA almost close to 3 years back.
Okay.
And the entire idea was that B2B contract manufacturing in apparel industry is not a new industry. I mean, it's an age-old industry. It has been going on for decades and centuries, where Asia has always been, let's say, the biggest manufacturing hub in this industry, while West has been the biggest consumer. And there has always been an export of garments and textiles from here to the West. Now, and there are like very large companies like Lee & Fung in the world, Trident, etc. in here, who have been the pioneers in setting up that supply chain for fashion brands and retailers in the West to source from Asia. China, India, Bangladesh, Turkey, Sri Lanka have been the biggest biggest exporters of apparels and textiles. Now, what we saw was that due to e-commerce and due to the customer demand for fast fashion, more trendy clothes, which are, let's say, less to do with season but more to do with what's trending in the industry or what's trending on social media, has increased the requirement for a supply chain which can react faster to consumer demand changes.
Okay.
So that means the retailers and the brands want their goods quicker. They want to launch new designs very quickly in the market. They want to go ahead and react to what the consumers are asking for, what the celebrities are wearing on social media or on Netflix, etc. And hence, like, when earlier the industry used to work on a more season-based cycle, where they would plan 12 months in advance, now they don't even sometimes have 3 months to plan. So that means they need a supply chain which is absolutely made for a different world, which is essentially what does not exist today. Or the brands have really painstakingly spent years building out that supply chain, that captive supply chain for themselves, while a contract manufacturing ecosystem of fast fashion is extremely difficult to access. So this is what we are building, and hence our customers are more fast fashion oriented brands. They are more, mid to large size retailers and brands who are very much focused towards giving the customer what is trending.
Okay. So you are saying, like, because I observed this particular phenomena, like you mentioned that there is a sort of a ecosystem. I mean, the main anchor, I would say, or main entity which has got a list of suppliers. So you are saying that, like, in this particular industry, now there is no continuous engagement sort of thing. It is more of a that engagement is fragmented, or it's more of a seasonal sort of engagement, because we see that, like, in consumer electronics or auto, their supplier will be there and they would know, and there will be no other player in between. But here you are saying that it's a now different engagement. It's a completely changed model sort of thing.
A very good question. I think, like, the difference between, let's say, fashion and any other, for example, automobile or electronics industry, is that the width of SKUs is not that high.
Okay.
And the second thing is, SKUs also do not change, let's say, every week or every month. The thing about fashion is that even though it's a very large industry, but the width of SKUs is just humongous. Like a mid-size e-commerce brand would always have 1,500 to 2,000 SKUs live at any point of time.
Okay.
And then they keep on launching almost close to 500 to 1,000 SKUs every month or every quarter.
Okay.
One more other thing is that the back-end supply chain can also be very fragmented. For example, let's say this quarter, cotton is something that is trending very well. But next quarter, it could be the case that instead of cotton polyester blends are trending much more.
Okay.
Which means that the back-end supply chain completely changes. While your cotton is manufactured very heavily in the south of the country, if I talk about India, Tirupur, Road, etc. While cotton poly would, let's say, be more specialty of Ludhiana or, let's say, even Surat.
Okay.
So that means that you are constantly always churning out your suppliers. You're constantly looking for new suppliers who can give you what is trending in the between the consumer. For a consumer, it might not be a big change, but for on the supply chain side, it becomes a very big change.
So here the suppliers are typically have a certain expertise. That's what you're saying. Either in cotton or like some sort of, let's say, I don't know, women's wear or men wear, or they would have like a certain set of expertise, and within that expertise only they can work. And it's not like, so a particular anchor could be working with a like very large number of supplier base, if I were to assume.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I think the largest retailers of the world works with hundreds of thousands of suppliers.
Somewhere I read that like you were planning more on export side, and I also read that like Indian, like now the export like if you see from Bangladesh or Vietnam or something of that sort, they are like very cost for the international buyers, they are very cost effective. So from our perspective, like if you're planning to do export, like where exactly as an Indian suppliers excel at? So where is that value proposition to the buyers?
I think the first thing is like, as FASHiNZA, we're not just concentrated in India. We are most of our supply chain is in India and Bangladesh, and we are also like now start increasing our presence in Turkey. So we are more global in that nature. Also because of the structure of the industry, every geography, every country has a different expertise. India, for example, is extremely good at cotton because of the presence of raw material, and at the same time, like we have a huge base of small to mid-sized factories, which then lends itself very well to how the fast fashion ecosystem works. Now, when it, for example, comes to Bangladesh is really good at doing very high volume productions, just because of the cost of labor there. But the size of factories is much larger. Dependency of raw material is on India and China, and hence they are able to do an amazing job at basic products where the scale and volume is there, and hence the cost can be driven down. At the same time, Vietnam, for example, is amazingly good at more technical product, more active wear, winter wear, outer wear, etc. While China is probably one country which is good at pretty much everything. But there the wages of the labor is rising very quickly. And hence they are moving to more higher value add products and higher value add industries.
Okay, understood. So you're saying that like from this thing, like we are planning to do both export as well as like international value chain also, like you said, in Turkey and Dubai also. I saw somewhere that I think some sort of a Dubai foray is also in play. So we'll be working with the suppliers all over the world, is our plan.
Yeah, absolutely. In Dubai, we don't have suppliers. In Dubai, we have more of customers.
Okay.
But yes, this has always been an international industry. So for us also, it makes more sense to be present internationally, both on the supply side as well as the demand side.
So this thing, I understand that there are like a lot of there are some other marketplaces in the industry also which have come up in this particular sector. Top of the mind, I know this, like Bizongo is there. They are, I think, doing some bit of textile. Zetwork is there. They are doing some bit of textile. I think there are 2-3 more. So just wanted to understand like how you're differentiating from these entities, like where exactly your value proposition lies.
Right. So I think there are two kinds of players in the market now. So one is people like Zetwork who are more horizontal in nature. While at FASHiNZA, we are very vertical in nature. Our belief is that supply chain problems are very deep problems, and you can't just solve it at one layer. You have to go down into the supply chain and really solve each and every piece of the supply chain, from raw material to production to logistics to even financing. And only then you are able to really build a high value supply chain to serve your customers across the globe. So while we are, let's say, expanding more internationally within this supply chain, a player like Zetwork or like any other player who are more horizontal will not be able to solve very deep problems in the supply chain, and they can solve 1 or 2 key problems of the industry, which is, let's say, very common across other industries as well. Now, again, there is value to both of them, but I think the level of depth that we can achieve in our supply chains can be a much more than what all of these guys can do.
Okay. So in terms of this thing depth, when you say apart from like I understand there is a working capital management is one of the value proposition. What all other value proposition as a fashion say you give it to a particular supplier or buyer?
Apart from, so there are broadly two key value propositions that we give to our customers. So one
Mhm.
is obviously that supply chain, which is which is faster in nature, which is, let's say, which can do low MOQ. So essentially very flexible supply chain to
Okay.
cater to the fast fashion world. And second
Mhm.
is we do a lot of design. We do a lot
Okay.
of design intelligence. We figure out what's trending across the world, and then we map it with the supply chain of fabric supply chain as well as the production supply chain to
Mhm.
tell the customer what they can do quickly.
Okay.
So everything from design to delivery becomes something that we can offer to our customers to help them essentially sell better.
Understood. And how does this
Yeah.
suppliers now are mapped against a particular buyer? I mean, what exactly like is this like a buyer first sort of thing that buyers will give that okay I want to procure this thing, then you actually go and identify suppliers,
Mhm.
or it is like you know that these are the suppliers and you go to the buyers and say that like this is what we can do.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's a marketplace. So
Okay.
yes, we have
Okay.
both the sides pushing,
Mm-hmm.
but we are more of a supply first company wherein we first onboard a supplier. So let's say, for
Okay.
example, we decide that we want to have a great supply chain for shirts and we want to expand in that segment. Now, it
Mm-hmm.
could come from an existing set of customers who would be willing to give us orders for shirts as well. Or it could be something that is more top down, wherein we see that shirts is a big enough market
Mm-hmm.
and should expand there and we can add a lot of value to our customers in form of design and delivery. So that is
Mm-hmm.
when we go ahead and start onboarding our suppliers. We figure out who are the right set of first set of suppliers that we should onboard, which are the geographies we need to be in, do we need to set up a team for it. All of these things happen, and then we onboard a set of suppliers who then, let's say, we do some sort of implementation with them. We integrate them with our technology stack. We integrate them with our platform where we get all the data regarding their experience, regarding what they have been doing in the past, and
Mm-hmm.
then we get to know exactly what those suppliers are capable of.
Okay.
That is after we do that. That is when our sales team starts working on that supply chain. So obviously, I mean, like because it's a marketplace, if we have more customers asking for something, then yes, I mean, we onboard new suppliers, and if let's say we are short on the supply side, sorry, if we have more suppliers on the other side, then obviously we go and onboard new customers. So that always
Okay.
keeps on happening. But we
Okay.
are more of a supply first company rather than a
Mm-hmm.
buyer first.
Okay. So, like, I'm always curious to know these things. Now, in marketplace, what happens that initially, I understand that like you have this problem that you want to keep both sides there. Now, yeah, unless you have a sufficient number of suppliers, you can't get sufficient buyers, and unless you have sufficient buyers, you don't have suppliers. So, how did you go about like solving this problem? I mean, getting suppliers onboarded. Like, in the initial phase, how did you like scaled up this particular platform?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a chicken and egg problem. I think like this is obviously a big challenge. Now it's not that big of a challenge because we are big enough now. We have a brand in the market, so it's very easy to go ahead and onboard a new set of suppliers in a new geography because we have a track record. But yes, when we were initially starting up, it was difficult. It wasn't easy. Some of it
Okay.
came down to the experience of our team in the past. Some of it came down to just going ahead and convincing those suppliers, selling them a dream, telling them more about us, what we are trying to bring, the change. Being a VC funded company was obviously helpful. Everybody in India really understands the power and value of startups in the ecosystem.
Okay.
So that was definitely helpful, but I think like a lot of it initially came down to just selling a dream to those suppliers to come partner with us and hence be able to grow their business. At the same time, yes, when we were initially just starting up, we did not ask our suppliers to do too much,
Okay.
and we had to also get demand very quickly to them so that they trusted us and they would invest more with us. But more importantly, I think like it was a lot about just selling the dream. Good thing is that I
Okay.
think like a lot of these suppliers have seen online grow, have seen Flipkart, have seen Amazon, who have helped brands who have helped multiple people in the industry grow much faster, grow to 10x, 1000x sometimes. And hence, like, people understand the power of being online, power of partnering up with startups. So I think a lot of credit goes to Flipkart, Amazon as well for setting up this ecosystem, setting up this confidence. But I think, like, I mean, that is definitely a chicken and egg problem that was difficult to solve in the early days.
Great. So you have touched upon this technology aspect quite a couple of times. So can you just elaborate more on like how does what change, like what is this technology change vis-a-vis the previous version when they don't have like those sort of technologies? What are these technologies and how it is helping them do a business in much better way?
Sure. See, the biggest challenge that happens with fast fashion or let's say more agile supply chain that you want is that you need to go and work with a large set of factories who are smaller. For example, if you have to manufacture this shirt and you have to do, let's say, 100,000 pieces of this shirt every month for the next 2 years, it's very easy to go and work with a very professional, large setup, nail down this quality once, and then you can continue to produce that for the next 2 years. And there are enough really good large factories who can handle this volume as well as who have the professionalism to deliver you this product very, let's say, more predictably. But let's say when it comes to fashion, where you have to manufacture a large set of SKUs with different designs, and then at the same time, because these because you're now manufacturing large set of SKUs, you also want smaller quantity per SKU. This is where the challenge keeps on coming. You can't go to the large and the most professional factories in the world because they won't be able to do it. Like, they need a certain volume to be able to do it. So you have to go and work with more smaller and mid-sized factories. Now, this is where managing those small and mid-sized factories becomes a big challenge. Like, you can't put so many people on the ground. Those small factories are not that professional, so it's very hard to get real-time data from them on what is happening at the factory and whether the production is running on time or not. There's just like too much operations involved. And like those operations cannot be solved by just putting people on the ground because the amount of data that keeps on coming is just humongous. So you would not know where the fall points are, where the challenges are happening, so that you can go and action those those points of failure. Without that data, you are effectively running blind, or you're just like trusting your supply chain to run absolutely efficiently and predictably, which just never happens. So those are the technology systems that we go and install so that everybody knows what is happening and everybody can solve the challenges where things are breaking. This is how the current technology works. Like, it works because there is a large volume, you have enough time to work around it. So you can pick up calls, you can even go and fly and see what is happening at the factory side. But when the speed requirement and the fragmentation is much higher, it's just impossible and not even economically viable to do it that way.
Understood. As a next question, just wanted to understand, like, in terms of industry, now from the government, are there like any sort of a support which you see are going to the textile industry, or any like other changes in terms of budget or something which has come up for the textile industry or sort of your business model?
Sure. I mean, see, there is a lot of things happening. I think, for example, PLI is happening, but most of it is, I would say, still concentrated toward larger factories. I mean, like, that does not directly maybe help FASHiNZA, but it does help the industry at large. We do need larger factories as well to handle more basic production where the value add might be low, but it creates a large revenue to flow into the country. So PLI is happening, but I think most importantly, the biggest thing that is happening is that has helped is just the infrastructure. I think there's always been a big complaint from customers abroad that India's infrastructure is slow. Just like shipping takes a long time, getting raw material shipped to the factories takes a long time. And just the improvement of infrastructure there, and also the GST which has come in and really uniformed the tax regime and helps reduce the complexities. Those two things have been very, very helpful. I think a lot obviously needs to be done on the other side. I think working capital still remains a huge challenge for these factories. unsecured capital, especially for the SMBs, still remains an absolute massive challenge. Some of these factories are also not able to access, let's say, insurance products to guarantee their receivables from customers, and hence they also face massive challenges there, and both from domestic and international customers.
Okay.
And I think so again, capital, payments, etc. still remain heavy challenges. The other challenge I would say, which is where some work is happening, is just liberalization of the labor laws. We see some of those. I think Foxconn and Apple are working very heavily to liberalize some of the labor challenges. We saw some example in Karnataka, but I think if some of those challenges also get liberalized, I think there will be a much more conducive ecosystem for a labor-heavy industry like apparel manufacturing.
Okay.
So I think infrastructure-wise, amazing stuff being done. GST, amazing stuff being done. But I think working capital, payment assurance, these are some of the places I think where if more work is done, I think it can just really do wonders for our MSMEs.
Okay. Understood. The other point I think you touched upon is really interesting. There are 2 points. Definitely, from our perspective also, it helps us to think in a different way. One is the working capital management. So definitely, we as Vivriti Capital, we're trying to solve this. We have a big supply chain finance team. The second bit, what you said was that the insurance. Yeah. So the second bit was you said that insurance, they don't get an insurance, trade insurance from the. Is it some sort of a structural issue, or it is more of an awareness issue from the customer side that they don't do it?
Sure. I think there are multiple challenges. What I've seen, awareness is definitely one of the biggest issues.
Okay.
And I mean, especially for an MSME, to be able to see what are the options available for them, whether it is ECGC or whether it is from other private players. That ecosystem, I would say, number one, the ecosystem is still not mature enough.
Okay.
In the US, for example, it's very easy to get factoring facilities, but in India, it becomes a massive challenge. Now, that is number one. Second thing, we cannot expect those MSMEs to do credit check of their customers, extensive credit checks of their customers. It's just a wrong expectation.
Okay.
So I think we need to really build an ecosystem here which is able to really guarantee the payments to the suppliers for the work that they have done.
Okay.
Now the third thing that we have seen is that for customers, they are generally not nowadays. Very few customers actually have, let's say, the capital or the intention to work on secured payment terms. So most of the customers, even in the international market, they want to operate on a more open credit terms, 30 days, 50 days, even 60 days. Now, because those customers want to work on open credit terms and these MSMEs are hungry for demand, they generally end up taking those orders. Or there are multiple layers of middlemen in the middle who are essentially supplying those orders to those final suppliers. But because of, let's say, a lack of something like a CIBIL in this, it becomes extremely difficult for an MSME to really get the credit check done. I mean, for example, if you guys are a lender. Now, if one of your customers defaults on your payments, then you go ahead and impact the CIBIL of that customer.
Okay.
In a trade transaction, the supplier does not have that same level of access to a system where they can go ahead and impact the CIBIL or an equivalent for a customer. So very, very so supplier becomes ends up being at the mercy of the customers. And not all customers are great. Some customers are absolutely great with their payments, but some customers are not that great. And all these suppliers don't have the right resources or even the awareness to take more legal routes or take more different routes. So now, and I think a lot of we keep on hearing how thousands of crores of payments to SMEs are stuck. So we need better controls there. For example, came in for domestic payments. But even in trades, you need to get a customer's buy-in to be able to get yourself onboarded on trades, get your payments discounted on trades. And what if the customer says no?
Correct. Okay. So you're saying that it's more from there is an engagement from the customer side also, that accept like trades platform should might work in a scenario where customer acceptance is there. Otherwise, from supplier standalone basis, if they want to raise a fund, it could be challenging without customer's acceptance. So that is where the solution can lie.
Absolutely.
So just from this thing, like last question. So we just wanted to understand like your this thing interaction with Vivriti Capital in terms of whatever funding we have done. So how it has been, and like what, like definitely I understand that like in the past we were also exploring supply chain finance. So I think in the future also we'll try and explore this sort of thing. So yeah, your views on the overall arrangement as of now.
No, absolutely. I think like Vivriti, I think like earlier it was Vivriti and both Vivriti and Cred Avenue. I think one of some of the earliest partners. And like I was saying, like our expertise lies in manufacturing. Our expertise does not lie in, let's say, managing credit. Like we have to do now. We are building up expertise in underwriting, credit, etc. But I think that's not our core business. And like, we've been fortunate to have Vivriti and both Vivriti and Cred Avenue as our partners from like it's been close to 2.5 years since we have been working together. Both for managing our working capital, accessing the network of banks. I think you guys have been definitely a big, great partners to us. We'll continue to work with you guys for sure in the future as well. But I think it's been a great journey together for sure.
Okay, great, good to hear that. It's always it's always. I mean, I fundamentally find that like any kind. Definitely platform was like a really big role to play wherever there is a fragmented industries, and they continue to remain fragmented. So I think it will be like really great to see further growth and definitely working in the future continuously.
No, thanks a lot. It was a nice interaction.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.